not many people knew about it. They didn't understand the value that they were missing out on, and then all of a sudden to have this extra money, which was unplanned, it's pretty cool what they're able to use it for. Especially in these tough times that farmers are having, whether it's milk prices or weather related. It's good to be able to help all these Kiwi businesses get some money and be able to plough back into their business, or take some time out, or further invest in technologies and those sorts of things. So.
This is the Ryan Marketing Show, and you're listening to episode 69 of 100. Today on the show, I have Jared Maloney from Catalyst Fuel Refunds, and we're going to be talking about a topic that not necessarily everyone in New Zealand will be aware of, but there is quite a fancy, interesting way that you can get a rebate off your petrol, but there are some hooks to it, so we're going to cover that. But first of all, welcome to the show, Jared.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Let's start kind of from the top. What does Catalyst Fuel Refunds enable your customers to do?
Essentially what Catalyst does, we facilitate the process of helping people claim back their excise tax. So excise tax being what the government tax on petrol. The rate of excise tax is 66 cents a litre. So what we identified an opportunity where we could help people get that back, because not many people knew about it. So hence we've been able to build a successful business around that.
Okay, so if you're at the fuel pump at a petrol station and you're probably paying somewhere near $1.90, $2 a litre, what people who are filling up their vehicles, what do they have to do, or how do they qualify to get that 60-cent discount?
The key prerequisites really are you have to be a business, and the petrol has to be used off-road for obviously business reasons. So, a good portion of our customer base are farmers using petrol in quad bikes, pumps, generators, chainsaws. But we also have customers like schools, councils, golf clubs, fencing contractors and the likes that are all using vehicles or machinery in off-road capacity. So these are the guys that are eligible for a refund.
Okay, so more in the primary industry side of things, farming side of things?
By and large, yes, but we still work with commercial businesses, big civil contractors and the like, yeah.
Now, you've been around in business for a few years now. What was it like when you first started this business?
It was pretty neat times. It was interesting. We were a total startup. We were running the business on a sniffer and oily rag, and it was all unknown. Dealing with NZTA, who are the governing body of the fuel refund, they had no systems or processes in place in dealing with us. So we were building some software, and we didn't really, we sort of knew what we wanted at the end, but it was just getting there. So there was a bit of trial and error. We didn't have a relationship with NZTA. We didn't have a relationship with any of the fuel companies. So I suppose during that time we've been able to evolve that and work really closely with those key stakeholders in the business.
I guess that's one of the challenges when you're first starting up is you may think, well, hey, this is all green fields, these are all opportunities. But on the other side of it, getting a fuel refund probably wasn't something that very many people were aware of, or still aren't aware of unless they're in one of these areas.
That's exactly right. So, when we set this business up, we did, to make sure we had a viable business opportunity, we spent considerable time talking to our target market, because we learned that not many people knew about it. The ones that did couldn't be bothered because they didn't understand the value that they were missing out on. So we then naturally thought that accountants would be doing this as part of their, financial service. So I spent a considerable amount of time talking with accountants around the country, and we quickly learnt that they didn't have a system or a process or a dedicated team to help their clients with this. So we knew at that point that we could build a business around it, build some software, develop a team, and grow, as I say, a business that specialises in this.
Okay, so you did your research first on seeing are the people that should be doing this doing it, and they weren't. And then the second part, which is, are people aware of this in the marketplace, and they weren't. How do you go about taking what is an act from Parliament, a government legislation, and know that you're interpreting it the right way, and that there is a real opportunity here to build some software around it for Catalyst?
Good question. I suppose in those early months back in 2013 when we set the business up, we really looked at the legislation hard, but we knew enough to get up and running. And there are some grey areas in the legislation. We've learnt, during our time in business that, there can be different interpretations of various clauses within the legislation, but by and large, we're, my team here are a specialist in this field, and they know the ins and outs, and that's why we have 5,500 customers and growing to do this, because of our expertise and working the refunds through.
Now, on that side of it, how you've got to 5,500, that's quite a weighty number of golf clubs or schools or farms.
So that's 5,500 customers that we've actually got to work with 4 times a year, because you can actually claim quarterly. So it's not like we work with one customer a year. We're working, we've got 4 touch points 4 times a year. So, it's quite intensive. And so we've had to develop a business through a strong team of people, but also technology. So the software that we've built and that's functionality through automated communications and the like, and some other technology that helps work with data and trying to increase our throughput.
Got it, because it seems quite simple at a higher level. You've spent money on fuel, some of it's excise tax, and anyone who's used to filling out a GST form would probably think it can't be more complex than that. Well, I actually downloaded this form, and it's way more complex than that. I think it's called the MR70. And the amount of information you have to put on there is, it would be off-putting to me if I ran a farm having to complete all of that. Is that where you're helping clients?
Yeah, once again, it comes back to our knowledge and expertise in this field, because there's a lot of things that people aren't aware of that we can assist and really maximise. But working within the legislation, of course, people's refunds and making sure that they're getting back everything what is rightfully theirs.
Now, you're still relatively young as a business, coming into 4th year.
That's it.
And you've spoken a lot there, Jared, about the team.
Yes.
And being almost 4 years old and now having 25 employees, that's quite a lot to be taking on. How do you make sure that culture, that when it was just you and Nick back in the early days, obviously now Sophie's come into the business, how do you make sure that the culture that you want to create keeps in the business as it grows larger and larger?
Yeah, it's the biggest part of our business in terms of people, and we've had some really good learnings on what to look for in people, and we're getting better at it. So we haven't got it perfect all the time, but we're getting a better understanding of exactly the type of person that we're looking for in terms of culture and just personality, and some of the key technical skills in terms of what's required to complete a refund using our software. There's a lot of customer interaction, so you're looking at all sorts of skills that fit our business.
So a little bit more on that. What would be what's the ideal candidate if they walk through the door? What would be the behaviours they're exhibiting and the skills that they would have?
So I think the first thing would be being able to relate to a customer. So a strong communicator. You need to be able to adapt, and you could be dealing with a phone call in one case, processing a claim, another customer calling in. So it's quite a fast-paced environment, but also a good understanding of computer systems and being able to work with technology, be open to that, but also be a team player, because as part of it, we all need to pull together and help each other, because we've got different people in the business with different levels of experience. So we need some of the more senior people to help coach and mentor and assist those more junior people through. So when we're looking at that, we take a snapshot of all those things and work out, is this person right for the role?
So part customer service, but also being able to wrangle the software in the right way to make sure that when you submit something to the NZTA that it's ticked all the boxes.
That's right. So we've built some software which basically allows us to do a bit of a sniff test, what we sort of determine as a sniff test, to make sure that the claims works. But we also need a team of people that know what they're looking for and can identify any red herrings, if you like, and be able to actually work that issue through before the claim is submitted.
Got it. So to be able to go back to the customer before the submission and say, hey, dig into it. So it's not just science here, there's a bit of art to it as well.
Yeah, yep. That's right. So, it's just been really, we've got to be really focused on getting the claim right the first time. So, and working it through to NZTA. So there's a bigger cost if things are getting queried, or we haven't necessarily got all the full picture or the full information from the customer. So it's our job to be educating the customer, but making sure we get all the information the first time. And that allows us to do our job quicker, and therefore the customer getting their refund back a lot sooner.
Now, with these software-based businesses, you're very similar, I guess, to a business like Xero, where you're using software to provide information back to a government department that can then use it to do what they need to do with it. And I know something with Xero, they were kind of leagues ahead setting best practice. How do you, or how open is the government to some of the best practices you've created here to help move them forward as they'll be constantly evolving?
Yeah, some of the technology in this business is pretty amazing. What we're, our capability. But one of the biggest challenges has been working with NZTA in terms of their systems and where they're at. So we've got a lot of automation and APIs with fuel companies which allow us to retrieve data, really easily on behalf of our customers. But then we've got to print these claims off and courier them to NZTA, which is a considerable cost, and there's a lot of time that goes into that side of things. But until recently, we've been able to, make some headway with NZTA and actually start to work on an online system where we will be able to submit claims electronically, and that will be a huge gain in terms of throughput for us, but it'll also be a win for the customer, because in theory we should be able to turn around their claims a lot quicker and get the money back into their pockets.
Now, overall, it looks like you've done a lot of claims. I looked on your website, and there's nearly 30 million litres of fuel, $20 million refunded. So these aren't, that's not a small number. But for someone listening that has these vehicles that they're using off the transport roads, what's the normal type of refund, or does it stretch across a wide-ranging spectrum?
The average refund is just over $3,000, so that's for an initial claim if you haven't ever claimed before, and if you haven't, then you can claim back 2 years' worth of petrol usage in your business, and then ongoing, it's every calendar quarter, so every 3 months is when we're basically working with our customer base and making sure that we claim our customers' refunds on time and in full.
Do you ever get feedback from your customers on what they then do with that money?
Yeah, we do, yeah, and we always like to hear those stories. So we, something that we implemented into the business is we developed an automated communications or text message system, which if the customer wants us to, we can keep them updated every step of the way, so they know where their claim, or more so where their money's at. So the night before that the customer gets paid, a text message goes out advising the customer of how much their refund is, and the responses that we get from that. So if you're having a bad day, I tell our team members to go into that text message portal and see the responses, and I think that's pretty cool to see how much it means to people, because firstly, once again, going back to one of our earlier discussion points, Ryan, was not many people knew about it. They didn't understand the value that they were missing out on, and then all of a sudden to have this extra money, which was unplanned, it's pretty cool what they're able to use it for, and especially in these tough times that farmers are having, whether it's milk prices or weather related. It's good to be able to help all these Kiwi businesses get some money and be able to plough back into their business, or take some time out, or further invest in technologies and those sorts of things. So.
And what are your plans for your business going forward? Because with any business that relies on government acts, they can give and they can also take away. Mm-hmm. What type of almost crystal ball gazing do you do to go, here are some potential avenues of where things might end up?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So I think every step that we've made in this business is looking at the process. How do we maximise, or how do we streamline this process as best we can? And there's still plenty that we can do, which is a core focus for us this year, on process improvement and working with our software. We've got additional technologies that we can develop with fuel companies. So there's a range of things that we're working on to streamline that process. Another part which I touched on earlier was this electronic submission with NZTA that will be another revolutionary step for us, being able to process a claim and submit it, and the process would be seamless, which is what I'm looking forward to the most. I've been waiting for this day for a very long time. We've applied a lot of pressure on NZTA to get to this point, so that looks to be not far away.
Excellent. So at every point, optimisation and keeping the efficiency.
And I suppose with that, yes, you talked before that the agency can obviously give things, but they can take things away. And and there are times where there is internal policy changes and those sorts of things, which do make life hard for us, but also the general public. But we've got to be quick to adapt and alter our software to be able to deal with that, but also educate and train our team members to make sure that we're meeting the standards that NZTA ask of us.
Now, a little segue. I have looked on your website, and you do have a great looking brand. I mean, it's very clean and simple, and great use of colour there. Is that something that matters, do you think, to your customers?
Absolutely, yeah. Dead right. So I suppose in the first year of business, we spent a lot of money on getting our brand out there. When we first started making those cold calls to a customer base, they were waiting for the catch, or they thought we were rogue and overnight sort of come by to rip them off, or those sorts of things. So we've had to invest a lot of time and money in developing our brand. We've always been quite focused on top level customer service, and that's what our business lives and breathes. And up until 2 or 3 years ago, you just start to people are jumping on the bandwagon and just want to be part of working with Catalyst, because they know that we're doing a great thing for Kiwi businesses. So that's what I enjoy the most, is seeing that side of things, because a lot of our business these days is word of mouth, referrals, neighbours talking. We've got all the fuel companies on board, and they're supportive of what we're doing because they can see the value that we're adding to our mutual customer. Yeah. So we're getting good traffic or new registrations from fuel companies and just general word of mouth. which is pretty cool, and it says, tells the market that we're doing something right.
Look, that's, I'm a firm believer of any business that is doing something for a good that's bigger than themselves, which is what you're doing. You're unlocking cash that's been spent that isn't the rightful owners, and returning it to them through the methods that you've developed.
That's right.
So I can understand why people want to jump on board. And looking at the profile photos on your website, it looks like you've got a very happy team.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just talking with Tracy on the way in here, they're not all based here in your Hastings office. You've got some remote workers as well.
Yeah, we do. So, we've got a team, an in-house team of account managers. So they are the people that are working with our customer base to process the refunds. And we also have an outbound team. So it's our communications team generating new business and those sorts of things. And they're using our systems, but, they're working from home remotely. But it's like they're here in the office. And, that's been hugely successful for our business. Having that split model, and we're adding a lot of value because of that model with fuel companies and assisting them with their communications to their customers as well. So, there's been some really good benefits because of it.
Excellent. One last question: what's been the biggest payout? What would be, is it in the tens of thousands, or has someone claimed the whole 2 years back and it's in the six figures? Is it?
It's quite interesting because, good question, when we set up shop and over the subsequent years, you think, that must have been the biggest refund, but year on year you always come across another customer that has a bigger refund. So the biggest refund that we've ever paid out is in the late 70,000. So that's a considerable amount of cash to get someone back.
I guess it must be a large part of the cost for a farm is running the utilities. That would be one of the biggest expenses in a P&L for sure. So, excellent. Well, good luck in the future collecting those refunds on behalf of customers out there. And sounds like you've got some really exciting times ahead of you with what's going to go into the NZTA and being able to submit some of those claims digitally rather than having to print them and send them in. Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate the opportunity. Cheers. Well done for creating this in the Bay and bringing, nearly 25 jobs here. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Cheers, Ron. If you like this episode, remember to subscribe for free on iTunes. Simply search for The Ryan Marketing Show in the iTunes Store.